Right, the NPP's Communications Bureau, we've just been listening to Dennis Miracle Sabuaji, and he's flanked by Fatima Abubakar, who is the Information Minister, as well as Richard Ahiagba, who is Director of Communications for the NPP. This is your election headquarters, and here we will make sure that we take you through until the results are known. Who has won the elections and who is not winning? We know how to do it best. We are very experienced at that. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini, and I'm doing this for the next 2 hours with Raymond Akwa. Raymond.
Yes.
So we are delighted to have in the studio also the distinguished professor of communications, Professor Eche Sikanku, Associate Professor of Media and Political Communications at the University of Media, Arts and Communications, UNIMAC. Also, we have Kojo Akoto, who is a former media person, but now he prefers to be on the farm. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us. It's an honor to
Great. So look, before we get onto the screens and begin to let the map speak to our viewers, what do you make of what is beginning to pan out? Sami Jamfi, the NDC's Director of Communications, came out to say that call on the supporters to go to the collation centers. Dennis comes in to condemn that and says that is irresponsible behavior. Then he also calls on their supporters to get there. And each one is claiming that they are winning or they have won.
I mean, frankly, it's not unexpected, to be fair. What political parties have done is to give hope to their people after elections.
But not false hope, certainly.
That's true. What is strange is mostly you will get a candidate in a particular area calling for help to the collation center. But this massive call from the National Communications Directorate of the party is what's surprising about all of this conversation. Mostly, they'll ask you to go back to your polling station that ensure that the vote is counted properly, that the right numbers are actually put in there and all of that, which is not a bad idea anyway. But asking that people should go to collation centers, and let's get it right, these collation centers are not very big places, not all of them.
That's right.
So if you are taking, for example, in Legon, it's just behind the police station. They used to do it at that small school there. That room may not contain all the, and let's get it straight, all the over 170 police stations. Everybody is coming along, first with the security man, with the agents involved, and your documents and the ballot boxes. That's why you're bringing to that collation center. Sometimes they line up because they all won't fit into that building. They line up outside, and the boys will not leave you. The agents will not leave you. So you have an agent of the NPP and the NDC, mostly the other parties hardly present their own, also bringing people there. The next step is that when they get inside, these four, including the police officer, he may leave because he succeeded in doing his job, making sure that the transportation was safeguarded and properly done. He hands over and he goes back. Now, when he leaves, the people are now basically telling the man collating the results that this is the results. Agents are watching to see what was declared and they sign on to at the police station. It's the same thing there. If they made a request first for you to, say, count the ballot again, and they made a second request, and it was transferred to the collation center, this is the right time to raise the point again for that to be done. So collation has never been a mass event. It has always been restricted because and media ought to be in there too. Sometimes Kodio officers, they have to be there too. Because these people are the people that will report accurately on the matter.
Am I hearing you say bluntly that it doesn't make sense to ask the supporters to mass up at these collation centers. When the results have been counted, the presiding officer, the law says, the presiding officer, the candidates, or their representatives, and the counting agents shall then sign a declaration as set out in Form 8A and Form 8B of the schedule, stating the name of the polling station, the total number of persons entitled to vote at the polling station, the number of votes cast in the favor of each candidate, and the total number of rejected ballots. When they have done this, then there is the announcement that has to be done, and then they are carrying these forms to the collation center simply to tabulate, correct?
True, that's what happens. And let me give you an example. In 2012 at Ayawaso West Welgon, there was a case where even though they've gone through all of this process, when the presiding officer brought the document, there was a problem. The data was not consistent, let me say it that way. What he was asked to do is go and engage the parties to see where the difficulty was so that they can resolve it. Step outside and do that. The NPP was represented, the NDC was represented. In that case, they came back and it was his poor appreciation of how to tabulate the results at the end of the day. There was no difficulty. He just did not know how to calculate it properly. So that was where the difficulty was. But all the other gentlemen, they had copies of the same results. Because they were so convinced it's the same number they had being announced. So there was no difficulty. So they resolved it. This did not require all the members at the police station or the people who registered to vote there. There is nothing wrong with you going back to your police station to listen to the results of what you did. Yeah. What is wrong is pretending that you can have access to the collation center. And in this form, some are smart enough to put a screen outside. That screen is communicating the results as and when they tabulate. That you can go and watch. But what they are doing now is seeking access to basically the room they are doing the collation, which is almost impossible to do. What you're doing is you are deliberately delaying the process, something that will not inure to your benefit. So the earlier it is concluded, the better for everybody. So I do not know why there is this, if you like, hysteria about collation centers now. If you are not smart enough to protect the vote at the polling station, with all due respect, it might be very late, even though you can call for. But you tell me, if you couldn't detect it at the polling station, how are you sure you'll be able to detect it at the collation center?
What do you say about what is going on? Because it is concerning, is it not?
It's very concerning, and I will speak to the numbers. Let's assume Ayawaso West Welgon is 80,000 voters, right? If NDC tells their followers to go to the collation center, NPP tells their followers to go to the collation center, and we even get 1% turning up, that's 800 people. 800 people who would want to be in that space to be a part of the activity. I think that if the parties train their people, candidates are trained, their polling agents, collation agents are trained, they should be able to handle that. If you want people to move there, then you are going to create a bit of chaos. And the more people there are, in the event of any misunderstanding, the more it degenerates into something else. I remember that in 2016, I was covering the elections in the Ashanti region, and I was in Asawase. And remember what happened in 2016?
Right.
It was announced that Muntaka had lost, and people rushed to the collation center, and there were people from the NPP side, NDC side. When I got out, I felt that the whole Asawase had gathered at one point. At a point, look, we couldn't even have access to, because of the number of people, even mobile data connection was a problem. So I think that the parties should rather focus on their trained technical officers and polling agents to do the work they've trained them for, because they have been trained. And we all know that the parties have, over the past few months, have been training people, taking them through their paces and all that. Let them go, and let's encourage people to be home. If you are collating at the polling station, if you are collecting your data, transmitting it to your constituency, collation office, regional, national office, let that continue.
Right.
And ensure that your people are always available at the collation centers.
In fact, the candidates are supposed to be
And the candidates are also supposed to be there. We know Codeo is there. We know GJA has a team of volunteers. We know the various media houses now are permitted to go to the collation centers. Let the system work so that we prevent any chaos that will ensue at those collation centers. We need to get this election done and dusted within the next 24 hours so we move on with our lives.
So in your mind, what could be the motivation for this invitation to the party supporters to mass up at these centers?
Before he comes in, what happens with political parties is that somebody will certainly put on a platform, listen, this is the time for vigilance. And in the case of the NDC, let's track back to history. The NDC has counted a lot of, we did our very best in the last election. There are many in the NDC who still believe that they won the election, but it was stolen from them. Indeed, collation of results was one of the issues that many faulted the NDC on. Yeah. This time round, they are not leaving anything to chance. So having people to believe that you are on the ground, you are active, you are vigilant, and you are doing all that is required to protect your vote is the reason why there is that clamor. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure what they are really telling the people is that go and disrupt the process. Yeah. Because, you see, you can have 5,000 people standing outside the collation center, nothing happens. People can still get access to the place. If the political parties, NEC, immediately, the MPP responded. Yeah. I was expecting that after all the things he has said, he would have concluded with, okay, stay home and listen to the results.
Let the process
to say,
work.
Go and also make sure you protect security officers with a great sort of respect. You and I, how are we able to protect security officers in this country? Mm-hmm. The people with the guns, how can me, ordinary me, not even with a knife, protect a security officer? But it's momentum. If you don't take care and people feel that you are not responding enough, or you are not taking advantage, and there is also fear. Right from the beginning, there's the belief that not only are the electoral officers not to be trusted in this election, but also the election management body itself has had questions. One of those examples will suffice. When civil society officers said, groupings said, the gentleman from Bonafu should not be on the electoral commission. Mm-hmm. I was expecting the commission to act properly because, yes, it was going to always raise doubts. To the NDC, they are behaving like when Azuma and Nelson say, go into the rink with your own referee, with your own
God.
Everything, so that you know you are winning without any.
But you have your referees in the ring. Akutuba, is it not so? You have your referees in the ring. You have your agents.
Exactly.
Your presidential candidate has his agents as well. And all these people are supposed to follow to the collation center. And the collation center exercise is supposed to be a very simple tabulation process, at the end of which the candidates are supposed to do the endorsement, and the presiding officer simply will do the declaration
that transmits
you have won. Back to my question to you. What could be the motivation? The people who are calling their supporters to get to these collation centers are not ignorant.
Yeah. You know, it's sometimes you can liken politics to football. Manchester City over the past few weeks have had a lot of players injured, right? But they will still encourage their fans to come to the stadium and support their team. And they feel that the energy of the fans would give them enough momentum to run through. And with politics and these things too, the parties want their people to feel that, well, we are in a very good place. So come out, come with the energy, come with the hope to drive this. They also want to be able to manage the aftermath of the election. Nobody wants to create the impression among their followers that we didn't do enough for the election. So I think that's what all these parties are trying to do. There's a bit of the psychological game they are trying to play. NDC doing same, NPP doing same. For example, the NDC, I saw earlier on social media, key NDC people telling their polling agents that activate your body cams, right? So if you have these body cams and you're recording everything real time, it means you have evidence for everything.
Way to preserve the evidence.
Exactly.
Capture and preserve the evidence.
Exactly.
We saw them, actually what they have been doing, it does appear that they have this master plan of making sure that they are policing the process from start to finish, leaving no stone unturned. So at certain intervals, You see, they activate and say, we have finished this phase. We are going to this phase. Don't allow anything to be done until you have signed this particular form. Let the electoral officers also show you this particular form for inspection and for this so and so to be done. Isn't that what they should be doing?
That's what we've seen them doing. And I thought that the parties will stick to this. So the NDC has shown or have communicated that they have a plan in place that they are using to capture as much data as possible to protect the integrity of the ballot. The MPP, through their communication, have also told us that they've also put in place structures to protect the integrity of the ballot. If indeed both parties have done the same, they should just let that process continue so that we don't call people to mass up at the various collation centers to create the discomfort for the electoral officers and whatever processes.
Professor Echesikanku, this is where I bring you in. You are in communication. You are an expert in this area and in political communication. It has to be intelligent. It has to have integrity. The communication has to have integrity. As I said earlier, the people who are asking their supporters to go mass up at these places, they are no ignoramuses. They know the process. And they know that it is not the massing up at the polling station, at the collation center, that does anything.
Right.
Why would they be asking them to go there?
Well, because there's a relationship between the cues that political actors give in their political communication and the actions that their political followers do. And so when you look globally, that is the reason why people established that correlation between the violence that took place on January 6th in the US and correlated it to the speech that Donald Trump gave. And so when you do that kind of textual analysis or speech analysis and then you try to match it up, this is the role that communication plays. It shapes attitudes, it influences behavior as well, and it also inspires people to action.
The example you gave was a lawless conduct. We all agree.
Yes.
And Trump has faced several suits, you know, and he was only lucky that he's become president.
Right.
We are going into this game playing by the book. That's what we are supposed to do, play by the rules. So if you find these people asking their supporters to do this, that's lawlessness.
Well, yeah, that's definitely concerning, and would expect that as our democracy grows, you know, would weed out some of this stuff. You know, I've monitored the international media. I've been on some of the media in Nigeria, in South Africa, and other places. And one of the things that they praise Ghana for is the peace and all of that, the atmosphere and the political narrative or the media work that we do. And so you'd expect that as we build this democracy, as we go on, would be very circumspect with the words that we use in what we try to communicate. Because at the end of the day, I mean, to be quite honest with you, he's speaking to the nation, but he's also speaking to his supporters. He's speaking to the party people. And I mean, these are signs and symbols and coded language that is being used to communicate to various kind of people. And when you do that, I mean, it's going to bring the kind of chaos that we've always tried to avoid, that we've always been concerned with as far as our democracy is concerned. I think we've had, from the morning, we've had quite an orderly and a peaceful process. Right. I think we should try to maintain it throughout to the post-voting process. But to finish up, you know, this didn't just happen. It didn't just happen out of the blue. If you follow the language and the discourse on social media and among the political actors over time throughout the year, one of the key things that you would realize is that there is this whole idea that this time around, from the MPP side, the key theme that I've seen from their actors on social media is that this time
we understand, sorry, we understand that the Electoral Commission is giving a press conference right now. We'll go to the Electoral Commission for its press briefing. We understand the NDC also intends to hold a press conference in the next few minutes. Let's go to the Electoral Commission first.
Very much, Fred, and welcome you all to the last press briefing of the day. In our previous briefing, the Commission indicated that polls closed officially at 5 p.m. We further stated that there may be some few polling stations where we still have voters in the queue, but would be allowed to vote, provided they were there at 5. Currently, collation of both presidential and parliamentary results are underway in all the 276 constituency collation centers. The Commission wishes to inform the leadership of all political parties and presidential candidates that the collation centers are restricted areas. Only persons who have been accredited by the Electoral Commission can have access to the constituency collation centers. And each candidate has 2 agents at each of the collation center. There is no need for the collation centers to be overcrowded. Reports from the regions indicate that about 60% of the polling station results have been received at the constituency collation centers. We also have reports of the number of second requests for recounts at polling stations. So far, we have only 1 polling station, which is the Swaman constituency in the Western North region, which has recorded a second recount for votes at the constituency collation center for the final recount by the returning officer. With respect to the performance of our returning officers and collation officers, they have performed their duties creditably and professionally and have so far been very impressive. And the Commission would still urge them or encourage them to discharge their duties professionally as they start to collate results at the various collation centers. With respect to security presence, their presence at the collation centers has been stable and very encouraging. The police has been able to maintain effective security at the collation centers so far, although few of the centers that have been overcrowded, they have been brought under control by the police. We also have some observers at the constituency collation centers. We have CODIO, we have ECOWAS, we have AU, and the Commonwealth. With respect to political party or candidates' agents at the collation centers, most of the candidates have their agents currently at the collation centers where collation is ongoing. The candidates have been very cooperative at the constituency collation centers so far, and we still urge them to cooperate with the Commission to ensure a seamless collation process or exercise. With respect to the media, the Commission appreciates the high level of their professionalism demonstrated so far. But we, however, urge the media to always verify or cross-check their information, as well as, importantly, the results that they put into the public domain. On this note, we would want to thank all of you. And from here, we will be heading towards the Collation Center, the National Collation Center, and wait for the results from the regions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Who's that?
There are questions. So that's from the EC's headquarters, and we've just been listening to Samuel Tete, one of the commissioners, and he was right, was he not?
Yes, he was.
That you don't have any business at the collation center. We're getting information that the collation centers are getting swamped with party supporters, and it's making it difficult even for those who are bringing the ballot boxes to get access into the centers themselves.
Well, I think we have to use this opportunity and this medium to call on all persons who are there to exercise some level of restraint. I mean, we've won all the praise in terms of how citizens have been involved, how they've been.
All right, vigilant. So the journalists are asking the EC some questions. Let's take that.
Even enter the collation center. Is the EC still on course to collate and declare the results within 72 hours?
I am Araba Edu from GH1 TV, Star FM, and all our affiliate stations. Now, our correspondent is reporting of a shooting incident at the Ebuakwa North EC office. Has this come to the attention of the EC, and what's your reaction to this?
My name is Zita Okwan. I work with Class FM. My question is about collating of packing of ballot boxes from the centers to the collation centers. What did the EC plan to, or how did the EC plan to move these ballot boxes? Because in Nungwa Traditional Authority Center 1B, there was an incident where an individual or a private vehicle had to transfer a ballot box to the collation center, which actually brought about chaos. How is the Electoral Commission moving ballot boxes from the centers to the collation centers?
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Inshira Kwabi, and I'm representing Asase Radio, Asasepa Radio. And I want to say thank you to the Electoral Commission. It's been a long day for all the developments so far, so well done to us all. And my question is that initially you told us that the last update was on the 50% turnout. We would like to know as media if you've been able to tell us the total percentage of turnout so far after the entire election. And lastly, it was alleged that there was a police force using tear gas on people, and even one EC official being caught up at the Okaikwe North Constituency Collation Center. We would kindly want to know if this issue has come to your notice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Edward Aqua, Ghana News Agency. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is Swaman constituency. So the request for recount, respectfully, what necessitated a request and what does it entail? If you could educate us a bit.
Mawina with TV3. It's the last session for the day. So if you could kindly allow us ask the questions. In the lead up to today, the commission had stressed on decongesting collation centers, and I recall very well when the EC took, with the help of GJA, took journalists through a training. The understanding we got is that the EC had introduced reforms where presiding officers are to head towards collation centers with just their pink sheets, and then the ballot boxes are to head towards the district offices of the Electoral Commission. What has changed between then and now, where we're seeing presiding officers move to collation centers with ballot boxes which is resulting in the chaos? Has the EC issued a subsequent directive which has changed what was supposed to be an earlier directive which would help in congestion?
So the sixth question, that's the last one, is what I'm going to use to answer the third question. It's the same. You know, what the commission asked returning officers to do is this. All ballot boxes were to be sent to the district offices, so that the pink sheet, that's the Form 8A and B, are those to be sent to the collation centers to be delivered to the returning officer. However, some of the district offices are serving as what? Collation centers. So in case you find some ballot boxes being sent to a collation center, probably that collation center may be what? A district office. So that's the difference. Then this issue of declaring results within 72 hours, this is just by a convention. We don't have any law which is requesting for the duration. However, because the commission would want to prevent anxiety and all that, we try as much as possible to deploy all our resources to make sure that we get the results in good time. At times, situations arise where people may request for recounts, at the polling station level, at the collation centers and other things, which may, to a very large extent, affect declaration of the results early. However, we still maintain that the commission will do all what it can to declare the results at a very early time. The shooting incident at Abuakwanov hasn't actually come to the attention of the commission. I don't know if any of the commissioners is aware of that. The packaging of the ballots, that one has been answered. And the 50% turnout, as at the time, in the afternoon, we were getting the figures. But because the district officers, the returning officers, have been engaged in other activities, we are actually getting it very difficult to get all the figures. That is why we've not been able to give you the final turnout. But definitely in the course of tomorrow, we can get it for you. The request for the recount at Swerman, we are trying to get the reason for the request. The director, Electoral Services, is making efforts to get in touch with the regional director. So that brings us to the end of no, that's what I told you. Yes. Yeah. No, it is not the policy of the commission to use private vehicles. No. We use the commission's vehicle, or what we call commandeered vehicle. Those ones are sanctioned by the commission. We rely on maybe the Ghana Health Authority, district assemblies, vehicles, and other things, and that is what we use. No, we don't allow taxis to carry or deploy election material. So if you have that information, you can give it to us. We'll investigate. But that is not the policy of the commission. Thank you.
Right. Sir, Bernard Atwata, United Television, kindly furnish us with the remaining 5 areas where recount has...
So, per the checks done by the Director of Electoral Services at the polling station, one of the agents raised the issue of overvoting. So that's why it was sent to the Constituency Collation Center. They did a recount and they found out that there was no overvoting.
So the remaining 5 places where recounting has been called for.
No, I said so far it's only one place which has come to the attention of the commission.
Okay.
And that is Swaman.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Tete, please, could you kindly confirm the tear gas incident?
Please.
At the Okaikwe?
Yes, that also hasn't come to the attention of the commission.
Okay.
Say the tear gas by the police. No, it hasn't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, we said 5 questions and 5 questions. We've gone beyond 5 questions.
Right, from the EC, the Electoral Commission of Ghana. That's it for you for the press conference there. And as I mentioned to you earlier, the NDC is also, they just started their press conference. Let's go to the NDC.
Of Ghana who have duly cast their votes going to the constituency coalition centers to observe the coalition process and what is happening around these coalition centers from the legally, permitted positions. We all know that when it comes to constituency collation of resource, it is provided for in law. That exercise is not an exercise in secrecy. That exercise is supposed to be a public exercise. It is just like the sorting out of ballot papers, which is done at the polling station level at the close of polls. The counting of those ballot papers and the declaration of the results. Even though they are polling agents certified by the EC representing various political parties present, the general public is allowed to observe that process from at least 100 meters from where the real exercise is happening. So if you are a member of the general public, a citizen of Ghana, you can go and observe the sorting out of ballot papers, the counting, and the declaration at the polling station. Why is it that at the polling station level we don't say that because agents of political parties are already there, then everybody should go home? That is the paucity of the logic the MPP is urging on us. And it is very sad that the Electoral Commission seem to be re-echoing this contrived and baseless narrative of the New Patriotic Party. Everything about our electoral process is supposed to be public. Secrecy and opacity is what breeds rigging in every election. And so if they have nothing to hide, the MPP and the Electoral Commission have nothing to hide, then they should be happy. They should even join us in inviting members of the public to come and observe the coalition process. We are not asking our supporters to enter the coalition rooms. No, we have accredited agents who are the only ones permitted to enter those coalition rooms. We have accredited observers who can also enter and observe the process. But other members of the public are allowed to be at the center, at the right designated places. Not inside the inner perimeter or that enclosed area where the exercise is happening, but nothing stops them. There is no law in Ghana that bans citizens of Ghana from going to a collation center where results from polling stations are being collated. We have always done this since 1992. Collation has always been a public exercise. And the Jimensa Bosmanasare Samuel Tete-led EC cannot change it. Neither can the failed outgoing MPP government change this. We need to make that very, very clear. And so we thank all our supporters who have heeded this call, stopped all manner of jubilations, and are presently at constituency collation centers. We will continue to call on you, appeal to you to conduct yourself peacefully, responsibly, and orderly. And please ensure that you are at least 100 meters away from the main collation center. But you should be observing your eyes, your ears, your nose should be observing the process. You should be smelling everything going on. You should be listening to everything going on, so that if there is any issue, you can draw our attention to that for us to act. So ignore the lamentations of our friends in the MPP who have all of a sudden turned into evangelists. I heard their campaign communications director quoting 1 Kings chapter 3 and all that. Bible quotations that I'm sure he has not even read before. Today, he's an evangelist quoting Bible quotations. This is not a biblical, quotation exercise. We are dealing with a public election governed by laws. And the call we have made is in consonance with the electoral laws of this country and with the conventions and practices that we have used for elections in Ghana since 1992. The earlier they get that, the better. But as I served notice and actually cautioned our agents and supporters to be on high alert for the rigging machinations of the MPP in this critical stage, or at this critical stage of the electoral process, we have come by incontrovertible evidence that shows that the MPP has not changed. But if they have changed at all, they have changed from bad to worse. They don't think that elections are about counting hairs. They still think that the election is about cutting hairs. They were one time lucky with violence and thuggery, and today they think that they can be second time lucky with thuggery and violence. But as the boys say,
you're welcome back from the NDC's headquarters, and you are listening to Sami Jamfi, the communications officer. And this is your election headquarters. Trust us, experienced hands. We've done this just too many times, and we've never gotten it wrong. We will take you there again today. The NPP says that they are going to wait until Electoral Commission finishes the collation and declaration of the results before they return to you to tell you about the results. I suppose that's supposed to be the lawful thing to do, but the politicians hardly do this, right?
Yep.
But you were on the point about the Electoral Commission's, reaction to the call by the both parties. I understand that Dennis was saying that they should go there and be part of those who will help to protect the security.
And the EC officials.
Yes, and I think he was very categorical in saying that that is not their job. So that call, or that message is uncalled for. And I need to say that it's good that the EC came out promptly. One of the things, or one of the mechanisms that a good electoral body does is a swift response. And in crisis communication, one of the good indicators of a good crisis communication is to be swift in your response and to be very assured and to also be competent or show some competence in what you are doing. And as far as that crisis communication response strategy is concerned, I think the EC are on point with that because the official has credibility. He's spoken a
They're doing 3-hourly news conferences.
Which is excellent,
But when it's necessary, they will not wait for 3 hours.
Exactly. And I think it's good so that there's no gap where misinformation festers and then it gains ground and then people act on it. And I don't know if we've done this before in terms of that, the rapidity, and the frequency of their response. But crisis communication, I'll give that to them when it comes.
So you think this time they have helped the process very much by this kind of approach.
Yes, because you see, right after the 2 press conferences, I mean, they stepped in even before the other person could respond. And I think in the past, there were a lot of gaps, and that gave room for all sort of things to happen.
Right.
And he spoke in a very measured tone, very calm. I mean, this didn't look like an EC that had gone bonkers, that were involved in any sort of hysterical action and all of that. And I mean, with the
we'll get to something else.
I think it's good that
we'll get to talk about some other issues else. But remember that on your election headquarters, we have our reporters all over the country. Wherever there is collation going on at this moment, our reporters are right there. So trust us to give you the certified results. Now, I actually cut you when you were making the point about what goes into the psychology of this, mob kind of mentality, unlawful conduct that they are unleashing their supporters.
Yes, and I tried to
in the process.
use Manchester City as an example, a club that is suffering from a lot of injuries, but you'd want your supporters to go out there to give the players on the pitch the confidence and the support and the energy to run through. Now, if you bring it to some of the leagues, like our local leagues, where sometimes some of the referees, when the league was in crisis, when there were reports of some referees allegedly being bought by some clubs, you'd want your people to go to the stadium to put the fear of God in the referee to do the right thing. So at this point, I think when the NDC came out, when Sammy Gyamfi had his first press conference, through this whole electoral...
You just said it's intimidation tactics.
Yeah.
To put the fear of God in the officials who are conducting the election.
Not necessarily to intimidate you, but to let you know that eyes are watching. Because it's not illegal for people to go to the polling station or to the collation center to stand at the approved distance. Right?
We know that the potential
and
that holds.
Throughout this electoral cycle, the NDC has had concerns with the transparency and the integrity of the whole exercise. To the point where at a point the EC said even the media needed a certain number of people accredited to go and cover this. And I've covered elections from 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020. I've never had cause to do that. You just show up with your station ID.
That's right.
In your station branded stuff. You go in there and you cover. So there was a bit of, let's say, the NDC didn't really trust the EC.
Okay.
So what do? You send your people to the place to let them know that eyes are watching. So if you decide to do any other thing, we will then step in, which may not entirely be illegal because you are allowed to go and see what is happening, to confirm, affirm, endorse whatever comes out. But I like the fact that Sammy Gyamfi has come out again to say that go there, all right, but go there and work according to what is in the law. 100 meters. Don't prevent people from doing their work and all that. It cannot be guaranteed.
Because the two opposing sides are going to meet.
Exactly. That's why I said earlier that ideally, based on all the training and all the communication we've seen from the parties that they've really prepared for this election, they should not encourage people to go there.
So Raymond, the potential of illegal conduct to spring up in these massing up exercises is real. But is Sammy Gyamfi right that they should go and observe? How are they able to observe at the collation centers?
I gave the example where in some of the areas, they mount a screen outside. So it's a classroom like this studio. The agents are seated. The collation officers, the return officers are doing their work. The EC officers are basically calling out
They're doing their
numbers.
work in an enclosed place.
True. Then the EC officers call out numbers. Everybody says, okay, well, then he's actually inputted. Then we see a screen just in front of them, like the laptop. Then there's one outside where everybody else also sees. So that one has every single, say, electoral area inputted.
Are you saying this is a template across the country?
No.
Collation centers?
No, not at all. Some
the
of them
collation centers that I have been to
some
cover
of them don't
elections
have that system.
don't have any board outside.
Except
you go
that-
into the center
Except
of the
that-
conference room
I
or
get you.
whatever it is.
I get you, except that it is almost impossible for them to have these people that are going there to be in the same room. In fact, even you, media practitioners, there were regulations that were almost making it impossible. Let's say every radio station sends a representative to our house who was gone. There's no way all of them can actually be at the collation center. Even in Accra alone, because that place cannot contain the numbers that are involved. What the people do is stay outside. The difficulty, as we have seen in places like that, the Ablekuma areas, is that if they are bringing the ballot boxes, they may prevent them from entry because they've masked up at the gates. Yeah. And the security is there. That's going to delay the collation, which nobody really wants. Yeah. But if they are going to stand there...
So as I mentioned, at the Accra Academic Collation Center, as we understand, the place is swamped with party people who don't have anything to do at that place. And the effect is that the ballot boxes are still outside of the place. They are unable to take the ballot boxes inside to do this simple exercise, right? So, look, Kojo, how do we get around this? Because this is where we are. Yeah. You know for a fact that particularly the two major parties, they know the numbers by this time.
Yeah.
And they are working the numbers. So they know how...
Or they have an idea of how things are going.
Exactly. Yeah. So how should we get around this?
Practically, I'll say they should start talking to their people on the ground, to talk to the people there, to go home. But you see, when people get into this mode, it's very difficult to convince them to go home. They want to see the final results. They want to be sure that they've seen what they want to see before they go. But ideally, the parties have people on the ground. They should be talking to their people to encourage the people on the ground to go home or pave way for people to pave way for the officials to do their work. I'll give you an example. 2016, when I was covering the elections in Kumasi, I used the inner ring road, right? So if you start from Anloga Junction, which is a Forikrom constituency,
right,
and you drive 5 minutes to Abu Abu, you are in Asawase.
That's right.
You drive 5 minutes, you are in Manshia North, Manshia South. You drive another 5 minutes to Swami Roundabout, another 5 minutes to Bantama, you are in Bantama constituency. Yeah. Another 5 minutes to Sofo Line, you are in Kwadaso. Another 5 minutes to Patase, you are getting to Inshaeso. Another 5 minutes,
I see the route.
You are in Asuka.
Interesting one.
Luckily for me, there are about 4 or 5 of those collation centers that had large screens. And I was driving.
Okay.
So I drive from Anloga, get to this point, I take a photo, send to my station, drive to the next point, take a photo, send to my station. It made it easy. So what Raymond is talking about has had practical, we've seen it being done before.
All right.
I don't know how it's going this year because I'm not on the ground. So it's possible. So now I want to encourage the parties. Pick your phones, call your people on the ground, and tell the people at the various collation centers where we have issues to create room for the EC officials to do their work.
Right.
We need to finish this collation and counting within the next 24 hours so that we get on with our lives. Christmas is coming. We really want to enjoy Christmas. So talk to them to move. But importantly, if there's any way the EC officials can also broadcast this information at the various collation centers. Okay, in Bantama, I think we had a church hosting us, and they had a large screen, projected everything, so we could see all those things. So if there are last-minute arrangements that can be made to ensure that even if there are people there and we cannot move them, but we should meet their needs, it's information they want. Let's get them the information. It may give them enough room to also do their work internally within the confined spaces they have.
I think what ought to be stressed is that you can have 30,000 people there, but they are not the ones making the inputs. And if there's a problem with the wrong figures being put in there, those 30,000 may not be able to identify. It is brilliant representatives. And by now, if you have not put them there, you're already at a loss. It is the right agents, the right representatives who get access to the actual collation place who can determine that no, in, say, food distribution kiosks, the number of votes you are giving us is not the same as what was happening there.
Because I'm holding that declaration.
Yes, because
I got
have
from the polling station.
Evidence to that effect. That is what helps. The numbers outside can only go to the effect of, oh, well, we have seen people mass up. But if your people cannot still detect errors, they cannot detect deliberate attempts to misrepresent data there.
You are hesitant to say they have no business at the place.
I am basically saying you are not
wasting your time.
Yes, because the real people you need to be talking to are the people who are sitting there. The people who have the same set of figures, they have the same computers, they are actually looking at the data. When it mentions, they can do the tabulation. And I've seen so many of those incidents to know that the more you keep up numbers out there, it doesn't change the fact that somebody smarter is actually putting in more figures.
Prof,
so at the end of the day, what will happen is that even though you've massed up and you are sad you might have lost the election, it doesn't change anything.
Tell us how the process went for you today. I voted this afternoon, and in my constituency, normally that's what I do. I don't get up too early to go join queues because I know by 12:01 the queues would have vanished.
True.
And I got there around 3 o'clock. Okay. In 6 minutes, I was done. Myself and my family, about 3 people, we're all done, and we left.
Right, right. I mean, due to peculiar circumstances, I was observing. You know, sometimes during elections, I try to have my own monitoring that we do, just trying to observe because of some of the work that we end up doing in terms of the analysis. So I did do that. And from the couple of centers that I observed and the people that I was talking to, I can tell you that most people had the same testimony. I even spoke to somebody who said this is the first time that he has had to go there and did not have to go through the cumbersome process of voting. Some respondents said they did it in under 3 minutes, or let's say about, not under, but about 3 minutes. Other respondents said 6 minutes. It looked like it was a very breezy process. And I mean, when you think back to 1992, and you remember how voting was around. People put stones there. The night voting, they begin coalescing.
Today they did.
Yeah.
They put stones, they put chairs, you know, all sorts of material to form the queues.
Exactly.
Early morning in various places.
Yes. But
so that doesn't seem to change.
Yes, but it looked like the overly cumbersome and burdensome process that is associated with elections has reduced quite a bit. And I don't know what the EC has done, but I think that in terms of either they kind of split, because I was listening to some of the reports.
Initially, it was the expansion of the polling centers to about 40,000, and then to some 38,000, and then now to 40,000, 900 plus.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's one. And then with some of the interviews that we did, somebody actually said in the place that he voted, they actually organized them in terms of the names, the alphabetical order.
Okay.
So instead of going to stand there and then like kind of looking through, what's your name, it was all set. And that made it very easy for people to vote. So I think that's one commendation that we need to give in terms of how the voting process has gone. But to conclude on what is happening right now, I think we do have a responsibility as the media and as an electoral commission, because at the end of the day, part of what we need to do is to minimize disruptions. It's the responsibility of all of us to minimize disruptions in the voting, not just in the voting process, but in the aftermath of it. Because people gathering there, all that constellation of anxiety, and a charged atmosphere, it's just a tickling bomb. You just need one thing and it goes off. So these things can have adverse effects on the voting process.
Right.
And I think the EC, although they've responded, there has to be clear and accessible messages, to the general public through multiple channels in order to reduce that fear and panic that goes on.
Could you remember that in the 2020 elections, and I have been talking about the 8 people who lost their lives in 4 different constituencies, and we have not bothered to account for them.
True.
Today, unfortunately, one person was killed, Nyampala. And in the 2020 elections, in Techiman South, you remember that the occasion that led to the shooting, which a court has condemned, was collation. Just reminding you of that.
Yeah, Samson, I'm with you 100% on your position. That's why I started with the data, and I used Ayawaso, for example. If we say Ayawaso has about 80,000 people, and you call out people to go observe this, and even if you have 1%, you have 800 people. If you have 10%, you have 8,000 people, right? Your average space cannot hold this number of people, so there will be chaos. So it's not strategically your best option and the right thing to do. Even now, there are also reports that there is one dead in Autusenya East in a shooting incident, right?
So we heard about the shooting incident there, but can we confirm that there's...
I'm just checking on my Joe online right now.
Okay,
and
right.
One dead in
because
shooting
the
incident.
team was working on this.
Yeah.
I had it...
So if you look at the numbers, it's not advisable to do any of these things.
Okay.
It's also important for those managing the elections to know that there's a lot at stake here. People want to know what's happening. People want information. For example, if I'm the one running this election, by now I'm sure I'd have put out information about voter turnout, because it's one thing people want to know about. What is the turnout of the elections? Polling stations are grouped under electoral areas, and they are grouped under constituencies, and they are grouped under regions, right? So right after the election, so I went to my polling station in Adabraka, and from what Eche was saying, they asked, what's your surname? I said, Boateng. They said, B, go here. They asked my wife, what's your surname? She said, Chum, T, go here, right? So based on that, within about 3-4 minutes, I was done voting.
Great.
So it was just great. And we know that they will take out the ballot paper from the booklet. Not so. So at the end of the day, if you want to have a sense of your voter turnout, the number of ballot papers you have issued, right? And this can be entered in the data sets from the polling station to the electoral area, to the constituency, to the region. You may have a margin of error because after counting, there may be, in fact, even when it comes to voter turnout,
that has nothing
you will not even have a margin of error,
yes,
right? As long as it's been giving out, it means somebody took it. So somebody turned out to vote.
You bring up an important issue, Raymond. The turnout.
Yeah.
There is an appearance of general, low turnout, not so good a turnout. In the special voting, we're told that the least turnout was 83% or so. But here we are. There are places we're told reporters had been to as many as 5 polling stations, and they recorded less than 50% turnout.
It's an interesting development because, first, and sometimes we cannot conclude too early. I remember there was this election that the Electoral Commission came to tell us that the turnout was 48%. We challenged that because at the time, we were sure of the numbers getting to the end of the day. And so it should be easily done. If the people get verified, and I must say, there are some people who have to circumvent the BVD for them to vote. But generally, it gives an idea of the number of people who have gone through verification, who essentially will end up voting, or who will be issued the ballot papers. So it's easy. At every polling station, one of the easiest filling points that you have to do as the presiding officer is fill the section on the number of people who showed up to vote, and the number of votes and all of that. That's easily determined. So we should have the official data now. Why is this important? Historically, greater turnout is mostly good for incumbents. Incumbents feel good because when they get, especially in areas like Ashanti, if Ashanti shows for you over 70%, it is ranging into 80%, you're on your way to massing up massive votes. That difference of 1.14 in the last election, if the NPP increases that to 1.5 million, for example, because, you know, mostly people will vote for the MPP in the Ashanti region. So if they have higher turnout, it certainly means that they are on their way to some good news being told them. But if there's lower turnout there, immediately everybody gets worried. Because your World Bank, your stronghold, is not giving you as many votes as possible, so that when you spread it across the country, you bring in the swing regions, and you share votes, and you lose Greater Accra, and all of the other things end up happening to you, you are in trouble eventually.
Yep.
So that's why higher turnout is good for everybody, especially incumbents. On the other side, the political parties will do their very best to make sure, sometimes even doing the illegal, to reduce turnout in places they feel they are strongholds of the opponent. I've used the example, for example, see, the reason why the incident happened at Baoleshi is because anybody who understands Ayawasu West Wogon knows that Baoleshi is where the NDC gets its majority of votes from. And that if you create tension, it ends up being to the benefit of the person who does not want more votes coming out of Baoleshi. So it makes sense for higher turnouts to favor incumbents. Unfortunately, since we have not gotten the numbers, but if it's becoming a low turnout election, incumbent will be the biggest loser in all of this conversation. And that is the current government. See, of course, not all the time. And
I thought what he was saying was a question of the experience we know.
No, it's backed by,
has often
in fact,
affected the incumbent.
It is backed by data.
Let him finish.
But also, there's something that we should note. The turnout is representative of areas. If the chunk of the areas where you have your people coming out to vote is where the low turnout is coming from, then it's good for you. But if it's the other way around, but let's take it seriously. Greater Accra and Ashanti together, they command the highest number of voter populations in Ghana. So if there is low turnout in Greater Accra and Ashanti, and these political parties end up mostly splitting Greater Accra, then MPP will win massively in the Ashanti region. So if there's lower turnout in these two areas, the MPP suffers more. Again, there's also no signs, and it's possible, and it happens all the time, that some very urban areas may have lower turnout than rural areas.
Could you, we may not have to wait to be doing the postmortem. Yeah. But earlier today, one of the concerns that were raised, I don't know how it affects the question of low turnout. The One Ghana movement issued a press statement, and it was titled, Government Must Halt Violations of Citizens' Right to Vote. I'd like to read some portions of it so that it's actually very short. It says, the One Ghana movement demands the immediate reversal of the blanket border closure ordered by government. Citizens have been seen at bus terminals this morning, boarding vehicles to their towns and villages to vote. Those arriving by air will also be able to vote. And I have a friend who touched down, the flight touched down what time around the afternoon, and she just went and voted and showed on a platform that she just voted. Okay, so those arriving by air will also be able to vote. But citizens who have registered to vote and returning to their country by road are being disenfranchised by the order under the hand of the Interior Minister, Henry Korte, who is an MP candidate seeking re-election. The effect of this surprise, blanket, unconscionable, and discriminatorily unconstitutional order could become the basis of a legal challenge of the outcome of today's elections, with the potential to disturb the peace. So what do you say about that?
I read this statement earlier today, and I agreed with them because basically, if you are not registered to vote, if you are not in the system, whether borders are closed, whether we open borders, if you get to the polling station and you are not in the system, you cannot vote. So I just felt that maybe the borders should be kept open so people come in and vote. There are people who probably tried to move yesterday and couldn't get into the country because of challenges. And for someone like me, whose grandfather is from a border town in the Bono region, Etuna, where my mother when she was a girl, attended primary school on the Ghana side and junior high school on the Côte d'Ivoire side. And so on the border towns and in those areas, you would have these things happening. You go to Agotime and you move from one house in Ghana, somebody has breakfast in Ghana and has dinner in Togo. So those things exist. So I just thought that this border closure was a bit too much. But permit me to go back to the turnout, and I'll revisit this. I brought the turnout into the conversation to draw the attention of the EC to the fact that if they release certain crucial information, it will make people confident that the EC is doing the right thing. For example, if I know that my constituency or my polling station, by now, turnout was 60%. So if there were 1,000 people and 60% voted, 6,000 people voted, I know that if any political party attempts to bring in illegal ballots, they go and snatch ballot boxes, whatever count we have should be 6,000, right? It is one level of assurance that things would be as I expect. And for getting the turnout, it's not a difficult thing. The number of ballot papers you've given out shows the number of people who have come to vote. So that number divided by the total number who have registered times 100, you get that. So I think that the EC at this point should be giving us a sense of the turnout. So we know that if we had 19 million registered voters, 10 million have voted. So we are all waiting for a tally that gets to 10 million.
Initially, they gave a blanket, massive turnout.
Yes.
And the journalists asked them questions, and I discovered that the EC official was beginning to fumble.
Exactly. I've made calls. I've covered elections since 2008, so I have a wide network. In 2012, I was one of the people who worked on the Kumasi Declaration. I worked with IDEG, Peace Council, TUNFO to do those things. So we have a very wide network. We get the information. So by now, we should know the turnout so that every Ghanaian knows that the final tally should sum up to, say, 10 million. It gives you a first level of assurance that the EC is doing their work and they are being transparent with numbers, and that NDC cannot cook numbers, NPP cannot cook numbers. That is the first level. So with all these people amassing at the collation centers, some information like this shows them that we are on the ground, we are doing our work.
Right.
Now, on the border closure, with all the investments we've made in BVDs and all these things, we should not be getting to this point.
Professor Chiskank,
we should not be getting to
the statement issued by the Interior Minister said that the Ministry of Interior has ordered the temporary closure of all land borders as part of measures to ensure the integrity of the December 7 general election. Integrity of the December 7 general election. Akoto Boateng is saying, so what do we make of all the assurances the EC has given us about the near foolproof of its systems? That if you are not on the register, you cannot vote. So why do you block the borders? The suspicion that is being raised is that there's a particular political party, particularly the NDC, who may have some supporters outside the borders, and you are seeking to disenfranchise them to reduce their votes.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know the history behind this. Is this something that has been done in every election cycle, irrespective of which government is in power?
It was done in 2020, at least I remember that.
Yeah. So
the concerns were raised. The question is, if your systems don't allow non-registered voters to vote, what's the point of this?
Oh, I get what you mean. Then you should trust it enough that whoever attempts to vote without a name being there should not be able to do it. I mean, I think that's the point you're trying to make.
And it was also a surprise. There was no prior notice. So if someone had to travel to Ghana to vote because they are Ghanaian and they have registered to vote, and they plan to travel this morning, they would have been blocked.
Yeah, so I'm not too conversant with the security situation and some of these internal mechanisms, but I mean, the democratic principle is to make universal suffrage, universal adult suffrage,
that's correct,
as much accessible to as many people as possible. I mean, that's the principle and that's the ideal. And if this is seen to be limiting it, then I think that has to be a revision to some of these things. But at the same time, it could be a proactive measure to mitigate or minimize it as much as possible, that it doesn't even get to that extent where people who are not allowed to get in do it. I don't also know whatever security they are picking up that has allowed them to do that. I mean, that's not really something I'm too conversant with. But back to the point about a low turnout. You know, we all want a high turnout because we want to build this democracy. We want as much civic participation as possible, because then it means that as a greater number of people's voices are being heard and are participating in who leads the country. I mean, I'm not doubting that history has shown what the lower turnout means for the different political parties. But, you know, the thing is that every election cycle is different. And it could also happen, and I'm glad Raymond concluded on the fact that it actually depends where this is happening, right? It's not blanket. Because, you see, the point is that for incumbents, whenever there is a groundswell of desire for change, a palpable change, you can feel it. And people are energized. People are motivated to go out there to vote, you know, because they do want that basic change, right? So do you think that turnout would benefit the opposition because there is a clamor, there's a broad clamor for change and all of that? Now, if that is not happening, I don't think it necessarily goes against the incumbent, because, I mean, it could also mean that that broad groundswell for change or support has not translated into action necessarily. And so it just depends on where the numbers are and how the turnout happens in which areas. That is what is going to help us to know the effect of a particular turnout level, but not necessarily broadly. We cannot simply say that low turnout means, okay, it benefits A party or B party.
We also understand that low turnout could be a sign of despondency. People are not getting the benefits or the dividends of democracy. It could be a sign of fatigue. Voters are just fatigued. The disinterest.
So, for example, if, Prof, I have family members in Kumasi, if they feel that the NPP has not done a lot of good for them, they will not go to the polls and go and vote for the NDC. What they do is they'll complain to you the whole day and say, I'll stay home and eat and sleep. They care less about the election and its results. If you convince them, maybe they'll go and vote for somebody else, but they're doing it for you. To these people, and even today.
That happened in 2004?
Yes.
Leading to the runoff?
Even today, I have a family member who said, no, I mean, she is still disgruntled that the treatment of Chemartin was not right, and that she doesn't think Chemartin is going to win the election. So she's not going to be part of the electoral process entirely. And when a government has been in power for 2 terms, and the evidence suggests clearly that after your first term, you lose about 2 to 3% in the next election. Now, when you go into the next term, you're also going to lose further 2 to 3%. In the last election, the NPP had 51.2% from 53% previously. It will make sense that if NPP people and NPP regions turn out to vote massively, NPP will make a good showing in this election. If they don't, NPP will not make the requisite showing here. That is without doubt. Now, on the larger scale, if, say, people in Greater Accra, and I was making this point, the parties have succeeded, and the difference between the NPP and the NDC is less than 300,000 in the Greater Accra region. Regardless of the period, you win it. So it's not so massive. If, say, there is lower turnout in Greater Accra, it does not really affect the chances of the NPP as much as a lower turnout in the Ashanti region. Say, a lower turnout in the Volta region when it comes to the NDC. I hope you get the point. So when the signs are clear that there's a lower turnout in the places where there's massive votes coming, a party will be exceedingly worried. Again, alternatively, they'll be worried about also, and they try their own to do whatever's possible to make that happen.
All right, so we can report that at a good number of the coalition centers, some work is beginning to show. Other places, there's some frustrations being encountered. And a few of them, the coalition is almost getting to the middle or towards completion. And at the right time, we will get our reporters to join us so that they inform you about what is going on. Let's go to the EC head office again. And Elton Brobe joins us. Hello, Elton. Hi, Elton. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and of course, I'm coming to you live from the National Collation Center. The National Collation Center is situated right here at the head office of the Electoral Commission. So what you are seeing on the screens now is we are right inside the National Collation Center. This is where the action is going to be in some few hours to come, because what the Electoral Commission is waiting to see is results from all the regions, 16 regions. Now, very soon, I'm going to show you how they're going to receive the results from the 16 regions, and then the process that it will go through before it is finally projected on the giant screen here for the attention of people who are here, and of course, the generality of the nation. So just on the left side of me, we have representatives of the various political parties. Their responsibility is to endorse the results that will come from the region. So we have the GCPP, we have Mr. Kofi Krantin, who is here with me very soon. I'm going to engage him. We've got the NDC. The NDC rep is yet to come, or the reps of the NDC are yet to come. So it's also the reps of the MPP are also yet to come. But we've got reps of the APC, NDP, CPP, LPG, and the other political parties, the independent candidates as well. Just a while ago, they were asked to go to a reception room to have dinner, if you like, and then when they are done, they will come back for the actual work to begin. The reason is that the Electoral Commission is here to receive the results from the region. So the first machines you are seeing on your screens now, designated for each region: the Upper East region, the Northeast region, Western region, Bono, Western North, the Ashanti, all the 16 regions are represented here. Now, according to the Electoral Commission, when the region is ready, they will fax the results through these machines, and then when it is done, when it is received, the electoral officers will retrieve it, and then they will present it to the political parties for their endorsement. And if they have any reservation at all, they will have to raise it. In the absence of any reservation and they endorse it, it will be sent to the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam G. Mensah, who will now endorse it and finally project it for everybody to see. So this is how the process is going to be like today. It's going to be a very long hours here. The Electoral Commission expect that because Ahafo region has only 6 constituencies, they expect the results from the Ahafo region should be the first to come in. We're waiting to see. But when all the 16 regions are ready, then that will lead to the final declaration of the results for the presidential elections, because in this case, the returning officer here is Madam Jean Mensah, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. So it's been 10 hours of voting. Voting actually ended at 5 p.m. Sorting started, counting started already. Some people are jubilating because the results is looking favorable for them and their candidates. Others are also not really enthused about it. There are observers here, but pretty soon, let me engage Mr. Kofi Krantin. Mr. Kofi Krantin is an independent candidate who participated in the elections. Mr. Krantin, welcome to Joy News.
Good to have me.
Right. So the voting is over, counting underway. I'm sure you've been observing. First of all, let me ask you about your general impressions of the 2024 elections.
Well, based on what we experienced, we've seen some inconsistencies. There were places that agents went that they were not admitted because they didn't have letters. But the whole purpose of the letter was for us to submit the letter in advance to get them agent cards, which they had. But then they showed up with their agent cards, and they still were denied access to the polling stations. So it was something that we had to fight to get them in, and they were delayed for many hours because the supervisors at the polling stations the EC agents wanted us to submit letters. It's like, why letters? That's why we got the accreditations. So it tells you that it's either they were not trained properly, which is a problem of leadership, or they were just ignorant of what had to happen, which we still have a problem. And we've seen other inconsistencies too. You know, we showed up here, they said we're going to have a meeting, press conference didn't start till an hour or so late. And these things lead to, and we've heard other candidates talk about how they were denied access to polling stations. So when you continually see inconsistencies, it points to something. It almost points to the fact that it's a deliberate attempt for the EC to disenfranchise people. And it gives reason for people to act in response to that, because why would you want to disenfranchise people? And this is why so many people we finding and reading and hearing about all these fights going on. People feel that they've been deprived their opportunity to vote, and this should have been thought about. And there is a better way to do this whole electioning process. Right. But it doesn't seem that our electoral commissioners are learning, because the process, I mean, we're sitting here waiting for results to come in, and it could have been real time, right? Real time, where with a scanner, an app on a phone, you could scan a ballot sheet and get the results, go to the center, which is the EC head office. And once it hits their system, it could generate a result real time for everybody to see what's going on. You don't have to wait to manually count it. You can always have the sheets, manual sheets, to verify if there's a discrepancy. But if you barcode all the ballots and it's scanned with a phone, then it automatically counts it as it scans it. So by the time the election closes at 5 o'clock, we already have a count. Why can't we do that?
Well, I'm not holding brief for the Electoral Commission, but it's unclear why they are so relying on fax machine for the transmission of the election results. Perhaps
fax machines. Why would you have fax machines when there are Q codes and barcode apps that you could use that gives you instantaneous count? Why would you want to resort to a fax machine?
I'm sure we'll hear from them shortly, but I'm wondering, I mean, how are you doing with results coming in? Are you still on course to win the elections?
They are telling us they already have 60% in. So we are optimistic, and we're waiting to see all the results, because you can never really tell. We saw what happened in the U.S. with Kamala and Trump, when we thought Kamala was going to win, and all of a sudden it flipped to Trump. So we want to wait, and even though only so much have come in, we are optimistic that we will win because we have the best message. If you heard our message, then you know we have the best message. And unless, of course, Ghanaians are not paying attention, why would they vote for anybody else? We've seen 32 years of disappointment from MPP and NDC. Why would anybody want to go to them? Unless, of course, we're not suffering enough.
So the confidence is still there that you will still pull through?
Well, we have the best message. And we're the only ones who can fix Ghana. None of the candidates can fix Ghana based on their policies.
There's also, so I see your name on the table, Mr. Kofi Cranton. Does it mean that you are your own agent in this collation center?
No, actually, you can see my two agents there. That's not for candidates. I only came here to supervise, to make sure that they were okay. And we've been here for a couple of hours now because I just wanted to make sure that our agents were here. They were here on time. We've been here for a couple of hours. We weren't let in when we came in, but I'm always on time. So, you know, that's just my nature. So our agents are here. We have two more outside waiting. If in case they get tired, we could switch them. So that's just the way we do things.
Right. Mr. Kwanti, thank you so much. Let me see if I can get to speak to some of the other political party agents who are here observing the elections. Mr. Alam Kwajo is the last on the ballot, and his party agent is here, Mr. Prechum. Mr. Prechum, you're welcome to join us.
Thank you very much, my brother Elton.
First, let me ask you, you are here representing Mr. Alam Kwajo in this National Collation Center, but polls ended around 5 p.m. How is the movement doing?
The movement is still great. Like you know, it's a movement. This whole thing is a process and not an event. So we are waiting for our agents from the base, that is the polling station, come up to the coalition centers within the constituencies. Then we'll get the documents to confirm and wait for what the EC has to do. So we are more than happy and we're waiting for the results.
And the election itself, would you say that it went free, fair and transparent as we expected it?
So it's always wise to wait before you make any proclamation of something of this magnitude. So I would just be patient and wait and see what happens, because we don't have the benefit of everything that happened across the 16 regions. So we're still receiving reports in real time, so we have to wait. And then once I receive that, the leader of the Movement for Change can make that declaration whether this election was free and fair.
What about the chances of Mr. Chemantin?
Still bright, my brother. Still bright. It's never over till it's over. So members of the Movement for Change should just keep their head up, my brother.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prechum. Mr. Prechum is party agent for the Movement for Change, Mr. Alam Kwajo Chemantin's party. So we will get back because the place is beginning to fill up. From the National Collation Center, the political parties themselves are yet to settle in. Most of them are still engaging in some kind of interaction with the officers of the Electoral Commission. And then the observers who also observe the electoral process are also putting together their notes. Some of them are already here at the National Collation Center, assisting with the process that I'm sure will start in some few hours to come as we await the first results to come through from any of the region. Electoral Commission expects they are to lead because the Ahafo region has only 6 constituencies, and so they expect that the regional result from the Ahafo region should be the first one to come. But they have 16 fast machines in readiness to receive the regional results. When that is done, the political party agents who are here will go through the process of endorsing it, and then the chairperson of the Electoral Commission will be the person to finally endorse it, and then that will be projected here for the attention of the media. We've been told that they will project the provisional and the certified results for comparison, purposes. So we'll leave it here for now, and then return with more interaction here at the National Collation Center as we settle to receive the results. The Deputy Chief of Staff, Mr. Adumwa Bosman, just walked in. I do not know whether he's here representing the MPP, but he just walked in to take his seat to also observe the process. And I also see Mr. Thompson, founder of ASEPA, but here as an observer.
Yes.
So
for the West African Civil Societies Forum.
For the
West African Civil Societies Forum.
So I mean, you'll be out and about. Voting is over. We're waiting to see the results. As you observe, what did you find?
Well, I think generally this election's turnout was not quite encouraging as we were expected. I mean, we were expecting that if you look at the campaigns the two parties prosecuted, we were expecting a massive voter turnout. But turnout has been very, very low. And I think that's quite worrying. I'm sure it's one of the things that we'll be discussing very strongly in these elections. Apart from that, I think apart from a few skirmishes here and there, after polls closed, we did not record any major incident during the voting itself. I think apart from a few incidents which, I mean, have all been dealt with properly by the EC, and then voting went underway. Our observation took us to some of the outskirts of the city. The reports we are getting also from our observers on ground indicates quite a very smooth process. I think the first part of the entire process is over, which is the casting of the ballot. Now it's about the collation, putting the results together. And
it must be well.
I think we are hearing reports of some forced recounting in some of the constituencies. And I think the message that should be sent out there is that if you look at the electoral laws, there are parameters for recounting. If you need a recount, the agent must challenge the recounting at the polling station. If you read the CI, the agent must challenge the counting at the polling station. So who are we talking to? So that when it goes to the Constituency Coalition Center, they can open it and recount. If the agents do not challenge the ballot at the polling station, when it gets to the Coalition Center, any call for a recount cannot stand.
Right, so Elton John Brobe there at the EC headquarters, and as we have promised you, we'll deliver in the same way or even faster and in the most credible way that we are known to do on the election headquarters. The centers and the bureaus, they all report to the headquarters, you know that. Let's go to the Ayawaso West Wagon because there's a situation there. James Aveji, what's going on? Hello, James. James, if you can hear me, bring us up to speed. What is happening?
So there's another chaos here at the Ayawaso West Constituency. In the middle.
James's line is breaking.
Trying to know what really the matter has been.
You get it? Look, we are not joking, no. We are not joking. If the country is so corrupt and every morale in the system is dead. It's like we don't have morals in Ghana. This is must stop. It must stop. Where is it taking it from? Where is it taking it from?
Will this in any way affect the coalition?
Between 5 o'clock, when they started sorting and collating and counting, you get it? We had done all our stuff from Commonwealth Hall to Voter Hall to Lego Hall to Saba to wherever on campus. They have lost both presidential and this parliamentary. So where are they bringing all those things from? How can you bring in a ballot box that has no stamps?
And,
you get it?
And was it accompanied by any EC official?
From where?
I mean, you saw it, and that's why I'm asking.
I'm asking from where? That's the side aspect of it. And then we will accept it and we will say, oh, it's normal.
Because we're asking because we know that the ballot boxes are transported by EC officials. And
what has happened is narrated. And we are not going to allow that. You get it? And if anyone dares, we will face the person squarely.
Thank you very much. Please, can you help us with your name?
It doesn't matter.
Well,
yeah. Trying to put. It's so sophisticated. Why?
So the narration got into.
I know. Just relax. I want to have a calm conversation with you.
Yeah.
You came into the hall with the young man. What has been the issue from?
Which young man? I didn't come in with a young man.
What's the issue? What do you know about what?
He brought in a ballot boxes from Voter Hall. They submitted all their ballot boxes. So where is he bringing that one from? You get it? Where is he bringing that one from? That's a question for him to answer.
Is he an EC official? Do we know if he's an EC official?
The gentleman. Oh, check with him. Just check with him if he's an EC official.
Where did he say he got it from?
EC officials have vests. Some are pulling whatever agents. Some are EC officials. Just check with him if he's official. He is not. So what are you talking about?
So you suspect that it might be coming from a different...
So suspect. It's something you run the boss to know what he's doing. You get it?
The thing is,
yeah.
They sneak in two official EC stamps. Well,
monitoring process over the period. Let me see if I can get to speak to Justice Ramsai on what all of the issue has been. Counsel, just briefly. Okay. Okay, Justice Ramsai would not speak to us now, trying to...
So... The broken... For only Lydia and that of Baumia. Okay? So please.
They should take him to that.
I'm interested in the fact that, is it a case that some polling stations are still yet to arrive at the collation center?
No, we don't believe some polling stations are yet to arrive. The ballot boxes are yet to arrive. We have all polling stations. All the pink sheets are here. It's being collated by the institutions here. Already. So, they are bringing.
All right, thanks to James Aveji for bringing us that report from the Ayawaso West Wuogon constituency. That's been a very controversial constituency to watch from since even before the special voting. I'm casting my mind back to the by-election, yes, and all the things that have happened there. And so,
and even
so do you appreciate what is going on there?
So I get the point. What he's trying to say is that perhaps they have completed collation or they have advanced collation to the level they are not expecting fresh ballot boxes from any of the polling stations. And yet, an unmarked, I heard a word like that, an unmarked polling station ballot box has appeared. And they say it's from voter hall. Why is this important? Already, you've seen on social media the indications that World Voter Hall has voted massively for John Dumelo and the conversations around that. And these gentlemen appear to be representatives. All are NDC people on the ground there. The difficulty is that they fear that these additional ballot boxes may turn the tide the other way around or may cause some difficulty for John Dumelo's quest to win it for the first time.
So we have to wait to see what exactly it is.
Brilliant.
Because it may be a premature jubilation that they have engaged in.
Yes, which is important to put in proper perspective. And it can be resolved. Determining whether or not this is a proper ballot box, determining whether or not this is from a polling station, and the serial numbers required on it. In fact, there were some times that the agents there put in their own locks, their own strips. They actually locked it.
That's right.
And transported it together. So which agent of John Dumelo joined this engagement with the team to go to the collation center? Now, why is this place very important?
Right.
You talked about the Ayawaso West Wuogon by-election and the difficulties there. This is a constituency where some time ago, and we are talking about the period where a member of parliament has stayed in office, Rebecca stayed in office for 4 years, only to be removed by the courts as not being the legitimate representative of the people. And George Amon came in finally when people were even asking whether he would get ex gratia for not being in parliament.
Was she really removed? She finished serving the term.
Yes, but it was determined that it was George Amon who was the properly elected candidate. But the trends will tell you a story. Some have thought that Ayawaso West Wuogon is an MPP stronghold. You can make that claim when it comes to the parliamentary elections, or the MPP have been winning all through. But I will show you right now that that trend is not reflected when it comes to the presidential elections. 96, 2008, and 2012, the NDC won. Indeed, in the year 2012, when the NDC won, Ewadaku almost actually won it for the NDC too. You see where the difference is? And let's not get it wrong. that Ewadako difference is better than the performance of John Dumelo in the year 2020. That's what people do not know. That if Ewadako at the time, people thought that John Dumelo is the best chance that the NDC had in that constituency. But Ewadako did better than John Dumelo. John Dumelo's difference is more than 2,000. In the case of Ewadako, it was less than 2,000.
In percentage terms, you are looking at, is it Ewadako who did 50.3?
No, this is the NPP winning by 50.3.
Sorry, that's the NPP.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's how serious the constituency is. But the NPP has basically won all of the parliamentary seats and the periods you're talking about. But when it comes to the presidential, there's still room because of the kind of people that are in Ayawas who has well gone. And because, and let's not get it wrong, apart from Emmanuel Jacko, of course, who died along the line, this was also the constituency of the current chief of staff. In fact, I was in Lagos at a time when she was member of parliament. And there was a time that the people felt the kind of person to be Ayawaso who was well gone MP should reflect the community you're talking about. Legon, Jimpa, Westlands, and all of the other inhabitants in that area. Will John Dumelo be able to do it for the NDC for the first time? Will John Dumelo be the one who will break that tie? There's been talk about he being popular on campus. But people have actually reviewed the electoral statistics show that, yes, Baolishi will vote for the NDC. Then East Legon itself, West Legon, and other areas will predominantly vote for the NPP. Then they have to fight for votes in other areas. But on campus, it has been predominant NPP winning. Which areas? So I was actually shocked when I saw the data about John Dumelo winning on Legon campus. But we all know that he spent most of his campaign on Legon campus. He's been moving from room to room. That's something that the chief of staff did a lot to. He has been engaging in activities. He's almost like he belongs to the JCRs on campus at the time. So this is a very interesting place to watch.
That's not exactly different. When we were students on campus, George Isaac Kamu came there to campaign on campus. Yes, so it's not different.
Okay, but one of the things that's been known is that the places like Voter Hall, places like Legon Hall, Main, Akwafo, the traditional halls, the trend can change with a new horse.
All right.
But they have been known to predominantly vote NPP. Being popular, being a nice boy, being somebody that is liked by many, and also being a celebrity of sort, would he be able to change it or do something different from what they did previously? That is why they want to prevent any so-called extra ballot box from coming in, which may jeopardize his opportunity because people will raise questions. If he's unable to win it this time around, after contesting on 2 different occasions, why do you think Yeshua should have the opportunity to represent the NDC in this case?
So let's do this quickly. The presidential votes in that constituency in 2020. President Akufo-Addo won by 40,136. And John Mahama had 37,002.
Yeah.
What's the possibility for John Dumelo to undo the NPP in that area?
This is a very heavy question. You know, when Raymond was speaking earlier, he gave the Baolishi, Legon, Gimpa, and the make of the...
For the parliamentary, Lydia Alhassan had 39,851, and John Dumelo had 37,708.
Quite close.
So it's not difficult to break that?
It's not difficult to break that. And I'll speak to East Legon because that's where we play. And if you talk to the boys and the girls, for the want of a better expression to describe the businessmen and the businesswomen, these days East Legon is becoming a trading hub, right? Upmarket trading hub. Every street has shops. Every street has some business going. And if you've noticed, every 2 or 3 years, businesses are shutting down and new businesses are coming.
True.
And if you talk to these people, one of the things they will tell you is that they import a lot of things and the CD and the dollar games is not helping them. So you would look at the Legon factor look at the Gimpa factor, maybe Wisconsin, UPSA is in there, and all these tertiary institutions, and would say may not favor the NDC. You'd look at Bauleshi, but if you also look at the Ayawaso Ayawaso West Wagon as well, the slums are also growing.
True.
Slums within Ayawaso West Wagon are growing.
And talk about slums. In 2012, there was a certain specialized grouping. I don't know where they were actually stuck from. A grouping were relocated to somewhere around the North Joel place.
Yes. And
boosted the numbers of registration on the ground so much and so hugely.
So let's do this quick. At the Okaikwe South, right? There's also an incident there where the police, we understand, got frustrated about the circumstance, began to use pepper spray even on officials, election officials. Darrow Kwao is there for us. Hello, Darrow.
Hi, Thompson. Yes, you're right. South Accra Academy, that's the collation center for the constituency, struggle the security personnel to control the presiding officers. Obviously, they've been working all day. They want to go home. They were trying to manage the situation, but the EC officials were getting frustrated. They started banging on the doors to the hall. Open the door and just drop their boxes. The police, in an effort to curtail the situation, started spraying what appears to be pepper spray on the EC officials. Some of us were inside. We had our fair share of the pepper spray. We've been coughing, we've been sneezing, just recovering from it. But they've given in right now. They have allowed the EC officials into the room. So results was suspended for a while because of this chaos in the hall. At the point, the police, they were not comfortable with me filming. They seized my phone, said I couldn't film because I wasn't allowed to. I told them I'm a journalist. I have to film. This is the equipment I have to use. And I've not been pepper sprayed by on that too.
All right, Darrell, please stay there and please take care and make sure that, like we always do it, we will get it because it has to be done. So, Okaikwe South.
That should not be a very...
This is the place where I spoke about earlier.
Okay.
Where party people had, crowded the collation center area, the Accra Academy area.
Okay.
And the officers were unable to take the ballot boxes inside to do their work. But thankfully now, as we understand, they are beginning to make way to be able to do their work. What do the numbers they say, and why will that also be a place for any contestation?
I mean, this is a place the NPP won in 2020, and the candidate, Dakwa Newman, won with more than 60% of the votes. The history, and I'll pull it up right now.
The NDC's candidate had 26,000.
Yes, and still just below 40%. Historically, this is the place that the NPP has won comfortably. And so it shouldn't be a place where there's a lot of contention. The NDC candidate has been changed. It's no longer Abraham Kote that's contesting. Indeed, the new gentleman had a lot of poise. Many believed he would do better than the people who have done so previously. But if you look at Dakwa Newman, and if you take out the year 2000, and since 2000, this is the first time the NPP reached its 60% once again. It's been fortune in between that period. When it comes to the presidential, and she did indeed better than President Akufo-Addo in that constituency, unlike in previous times when President Akufo-Addo in 2016, for example, had almost 62%, and yet the candidate had 58%. And also in 2012, the performance of the president was far better, even though the NPP lost the national election, the NPP won that particular seat, compared to the candidate getting 55%. So it is, to a very large extent, a safe seat for the NPP. because they've been winning it within the 50s and sometimes they get 60. Indeed, for presidential,
and her dad,
it is 70%.
Her dad was doing that, right? Dr. Newman, correct?
Yes. In fact, in the year 2000, the MPP did 72% in that constituency and the area surrounding that. So it should not be easy for the MPP to win that, except that people feel the dynamics are changing in constituencies like that. So with a new candidate who is poised for action, who believes that he has enough resources to also push, they call him Kion on the grounds. That's how they call him. So in all fairness, one is interested in knowing whether or not he will be able to push aside history. History that's fomented and cemented the MPP's winning ways in that particular constituency.
Now, Prof, is this not an almost impossible, job to do? The last time the NDC didn't even make half of what Dakwa Newman used to win the vote. She won by a vote margin of 40,339.
93, yeah.
At 93. How will anybody be able to scale that?
So the difference there is about 14,000, just to put it in perspective.
The difference...
Yeah. So this is 40,000, this is 26,000. So 14,000.
Yes, correct. So 14,000 votes.
And they flipped it, that's confirmed? Well, I mean, it's...
No, we are not talking about it being flipped. We're asking,
why it should be contentious for such a place to have all of the heightened interest and everything.
Is it possible to...
Especially when they've been sweeping it for...
Well, you see, it could be representative of several factors. It could be one, the general malaise that people feel in terms of if there's a wave. It could be indicative. That's where you can get some of the signs and symbols from when you realize that an almost impossible situation is getting another wave. You can read from that. It also could be symptomatic of the candidate that has been put up over there. And I was going to compare that to Ayawaso West Wogon. It's the same thing. You go to Ayawaso West, where I'm more familiar with. And it shouldn't be surprising to see what's happening over there. I mean, I don't know how best I can say this very nicely, but I think even the candidate that they put up, if you look at the demographic of that place and all of that, it's the University Enclave. We know it's a very elite area, although we have the slums. But like we've all agreed, the candidates who have often represented have been symbolic or symptomatic of the area. I mean, you look at the NPP candidate this time around, and she has not engendered that same thing if you look at the kind of candidates that they have. And so that gave Dumelo an entry point. Look at his performance the last time. He just needed to do a bit more in this. I don't think that's a surprise. And for the young people, the same sentiments that they have with the parties are not the same as the old. This is not 1992. This is not 2000, 2008, where there is a broad brush we can use to paint one party and say this party is intellectual, this party is not. I think that has neutralized. People have felt free to make their allegiances to any party, irrespective of where their parents belong, where their tribe belongs, or anything like that. And people who come to the university community are also coming from different places. Let's not forget. Different places from different backgrounds. So it has really neutralized a lot of it. And Dumelo, with his own reputation as a movie celebrity, I mean, those girls love him, I'm telling you, for sure. And so it has really, really come to neutralize. And I think the candidate who is there, the kind of campaign the candidate also ran, it's another thing. The charisma of both candidates. Also, you might be a good candidate, but your charisma, the affinity, the affection that you have towards the community, those are factors, that could lead to such a situation or a scenario.
So you're still here on your election headquarters, and we will, as we always do, be making sure that you get the figures and you get them right. And of course, we will, in due course, get you to know the full picture. Yes, could you?
Yes, so I was on the Ayawaso before we went to Okaikwe, and I think Prof has given us another angle, which I was trying to drive to. So Raymond, I'm picking up from some of the things Raymond said to give you the other perspective, that it's a highly educated constituency.
That's right.
And it is this, it is that. So if you look at the demographic makeup, you have a very youthful population in the space because of the schools. That's number one. You also have the very upwardly mobile demographic in the space, and also you have the slums, right? But what John also presents to Ayawaso West Wuogon is the fact that he has basically woven himself into the constituency. He's tried to earn 2 master's degrees from the same constituency, which is publicized very well. So he's telling the intellectuals, I am like you. And then he goes to the ground and works with the people. There's this joke on Facebook that when John tries to desilt 1 gutter, Lydia distills 10 gutters, meaning that he's putting a lot of pressure on Honorable Lydia Seram Al-Hassan. So Ayawaso West Wuogon is an interesting place to watch, and things can happen. Now, on the Okaikwe, you asked a very interesting question.
Now, before you move beyond Ayawaso West Wuogon, I just wanted to put this in perspective. What we'll be doing also is to bring on board, first time, and you're seeing it here for the first time, connecting the poverty situation or the lack thereof in a constituency to a possible understanding of how they vote and how it affects their voting trend. So in 2015, the severity was 1.84, quite low. That's why it's not, the shade is not that deep and that dark. Now, the incidence was 15.18.
According to the Statistical Service.
Yes. Let's look at whether that changes when it comes to the year 2021. Now, watch it this way. This same Ayawaso West Wuogon, whilst the incidence had reduced slightly, the severity of poverty in the area had gone up tremendously. We're talking about something within the range of 1%, which is now 41%. When there is that level of poverty, it's not saying it's widespread. I'm not sure you expect people in East Legon to be extremely poor, but it means that the situation of the individuals who are poor has worsened over a period between 2015 and 2021. This was just after the 2020 election, the last time we held the election. This is a trend we are seeing in Greater Accra, where poverty levels have generally increased, and it may reflect in how they angrily respond at the vote.
It's good you say it may, because we know of places where, regardless of what the circumstance, they will vote for one of the 2 parties.
True. So we're not sure whether people who have had their poverty situation worsen within the period are going to let that reflect in how they vote, or that's not going to happen. We're not sure. But what we know for a fact is when it comes to incidence, 2015 was better than 2021. But when it comes to severity, it's gone up from what used to be under 2% to 41.60. That is massive.
Ahafo South, there appears to be some difficulty at Ahafo South. Let's attempt to understand what is going on there. Apparently some issues of, is it foreign ballot or something of the sort? Right, so... a car that apparently, allegedly, was engaged or was containing some, ballot that they suspected was foreign, is the one that they have overturned. That's the car that's been turned down there, and that's the voters. The voters just simply resisting that there is an attempt to do something untoward, something wrong, and then they stop the car. They don't end at that. They turn the car down. You could see that they have broken its glasses and so on. Yes, could you were talking first when I cut you. When you see scenes like this, and who are those jubilating? Because people are not in their party colors, it's difficult to tell who are jubilating, whether it's the NPP or is the NDC that is jubilating at this place.
But our North-South, I believe, is currently held by the NPP.
Johnson K.
Yes, our North-South is currently for the NPP. It's one of those close constituencies. So if people are jubilating that some ballots are not coming, you can make a safe inference that these people...
North-South is Francis Adabo.
Yes, Francis Menu Adabo. Okay. Yes. So you can make a safe assumption or inference that those jubilating could be NDC after successfully probably preventing some foreign ballots from coming into the space. And if you look at our North-South, our North, you move from those places and then you are in R4. And
North is where Gideon Buako is going now, right?
No, Gideon is going to Tano.
Tano.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, Techimentia area.
All right.
And so you move from Tano, then you get to the Joya and Kanta areas, you get to Sunyani. If you are in Tano and you try to go to the east side, you go through a Suoso to, what do you call this place? The place with a lot of tomatoes.
Akumadan.
There's Suoso Akumadan Road, then you can join Techiman and you go. So that's one of those areas. Very, very interesting area. I hope nobody gets hurt. I hope nobody gets injured. I hope the security agencies are able to deal with it. And if the EC is following this, they should release a statement and clear the air on some of these things. I believe that anything that happens, because people need information, and at this point, information is a very, very important currency.
That's right.
We need to release that information to clear the air on all these things so people don't make assumptions.
And they have done so well so far.
Yes, and even though they are not going to have any further press briefings this evening, they can release statements.
Right.
So that we get to know what's happening in these areas.
Right.
I was earlier trying to ask Raymond some questions about the Okankwe, the Dakwa Newman's area. You know, if you look at Greater Accra, what was the vote difference last year in the last election?
Between the NPP and
presidential,
the
yes, overall.
Somewhere about 70,000.
Let's say 100,000.
Yes, even let's estimate to the highest level.
You have 37,000 constituencies, 37 constituencies in Greater Accra. And some of these constituencies that are believed to be NPP strongholds, because Dakwa Newman's father is Victor Newman, who is one of the heavyweights who established that constituency, basically. Now, if NDC is able to get 5,000 votes extra from each of these constituencies in Greater Accra, 37,000 times 5,000, you'll be looking at 185,000 votes.
True.
Which changes the dynamics for the party. So sometimes when you see them going all out, there are some places you know you won't win, like Ashanti region. NDC knows they will never win Ashanti region. But if you get 30% in Ashanti region gives the NPP about 1 million votes extra every year, right? So if you get 30% in Ashanti region, you are reducing that 1 million votes to say 800 or 700,000 votes, which reduces the impact of the Ashanti votes, cancelling out votes from Volta, from Upper East, Upper West, from Savannah, and some of the strongholds. So it's very important. Sometimes when you look at these numbers and you see the strategy of some of the parties, NDC knows Ashanti region we won't win, but let's get as many votes as possible to close the gap.
Interesting development at the Old Tafo. We understand that there's a crowd there at the collation center, and surprisingly, both parties are claiming victory. Let's take you there right now. And see what happens. No, Old Tafo Collation Center, where both parties appear to be claiming victory. And
NPP wins by 74%, 75%. In fact, the last time was 74%. Previously, 78%.
Okay, so we should be getting ready for impossibilities, right?
Yeah, but
let's go to the Ghana Journalists Association, where they are also having a briefing.
GJA, and we have the National Organizing Secretary, Dominic Ploji. And in this period, when I mention his name, I want you to appreciate the fact that the accreditation tags you are wearing to work, he worked on everything. So you got to show him some appreciation. And then I acknowledge the National Treasurer of the Association, Mrs. Audrey De Kalu, and my good sister, the indefatigable Public Affairs Officer, Ms. Rebecca Ikpe. I must also say special thanks to our own and our senior colleague, Kentima Nila Isoa, who has been with us since yesterday, has stayed with us till this early morning. Shall we show him some love? Okay, so as I said, we want to thank you profusely for making time to attend to our call. I will now invite the president of the GJA to come and address the press conference and tell us why we have invited you here. Shall we receive him?
Thank you so much. And once again, good morning to you all. This press conference, as indicated by the General Secretary, is to give you update on media coverage of the ongoing parliamentary and presidential elections. It's very important to note that as a key stakeholder in this national discourse or exercise, our safety and security is very key, especially during this period when counting, collation, and declaration of results is ongoing. Reports reaching us suggest that some journalists have come under threat in some election centers. And I'll give an example. Kaswa in the Ewutu Senya East constituency, as well as other parts of the country. It is very, very important and crucial to note that the safety of journalists, the safety of the media, that serves as the link between the ongoing processes and the good people of Ghana is very, very important and must not be taken for granted. Because without the media, that cloud would have covered the ongoing process. The media is there to shed light and bring to light activities which are usually shredded in secrecy and in darkness. And so, at this crucial moment where counting, collation, and declaration of results is ongoing, we expect and call on the security task force, most importantly, the Ghana Police Service. I have tried to reach out to the authorities of the Ghana Police Service without success. We call on them to protect all media practitioners on the field. I must say, journalists' lives matter, especially at this crucial moment. We will also want to encourage and admonish journalists to take their personal security and safety seriously at this moment. they should take precautionary measure for their safety. The issue from the Ewutu Senya East constituency, Kaswa to be precise, gave me the impression that the said journalist or reporter who was quote and unquote entrapped by a gunshot of some unknown assailant. We are told the police have arrested some suspects. So we commend the police for this swift action. But the report indicates, or the report gives me some kind of relief, because as at the time the report came, this journalist or reporter are taking guard. In fact, she had to run for her life. Even at the time of discharging her constitutional mandate or duty, she made sure that she was at a safety place, or a safe place, a secured place. And this is what we expect each and every journalist to do, that at all time, don't wait to be the story. You are there to tell the story. So you shouldn't be the story. So I'll use this very example for all of you to follow suit when you come under such threat or attack. We also want to encourage heads of media houses and media institutions, editors, management, to also ensure the safety of their staff, their media practitioners. At this moment, the life of journalists is very, very important as tension keeps increasing or rising. Because results are trickling in. By now, we are aware that the political parties and the key stakeholders are aware of their standings and what is happening. We want to encourage and also caution politicians that the work of the journalist, we have seen political parties giving real-time updates and briefing on what is happening. And the very people carrying these messages to the public is the media. And so politicians must refrain from venting their anger on journalists during this period. If you are losing, don't pour your frustrations on journalists. Don't turn your venom on us. Journalists didn't cause your loss. We are there to discharge our constitutional duty and mandate. We are monitoring killing, the processes, and we will deal with every or any excess that may arise from this process. We were told that the military would not be involved in the elections, especially at the polling centers. We were told that the military will only patrol around the distance. They will not come close to the polling stations. And that it will only act upon what? Upon the call from the police or the security task force, if there need be. But we are witnessing some incidents involving the military. We have seen visuals of military personnel in uniform at polling stations the very place or location which they were barred from coming or from going. We have seen military officers in uniform as church priests. And we have also recorded some shooting incidents as a result of these breaches by the military officers. We have seen incidents at Yankala within the Tolon constituency in the northern region. And Yankala is the UDS campus. We've also seen another shooting incident at Afuano Southwest constituency. When such things happen, there's high tendency that journalists may be affected. In 2020, there was such shooting incident at Ablekuma Central, which severely injured, affected one of our own, one Pius Asiedu, a student journalist who was taking part and playing a role to inform and educate the public on what is happening at Ablekuma. Pius Asiedu has undergone 3 surgeries already and are still not recovered. We are urging the security task force, we are urging the military command that such incidents have the tendency of causing injury or harm to media practitioners. We are very much concerned about the safety and security of journalists during this period, especially those on the field. As we speak, we are yet to receive results from the constituency collation centers before we proceed to the regional collation centers. It means we have a long way to go. And so we call on the security task force as well as especially the Ghana Police Service to take up their constitutional role by protecting lives and properties. And when we talk about lives, journalists or media practitioners are not left out. They shouldn't wait for the unexpected to happen. We are keenly monitoring. We don't want to record or hear another Pius Asiedu in this election. Colleagues, we've also been duly informed by our volunteers on the field. Report coming to us from some constituencies collation centers. And I'll give examples because I know that for EC, they always want specific to deal with. And as journalists, we also deal with specifics because evidence is always the name of the game. At Cape Coast North constituency, the GJA volunteer with accreditation from the Electoral Commission, a photo accreditation that warrants or gives everyone access to the polling centers and to the constituency collation center or centers, as well as the regional centers, was still denied access to the constituency collation center. GJA volunteer at the Cape Coast North constituency. Again, at Guan constituency, a GJA volunteer, and we are told that not only him, including other journalists, have also been denied access. And we have said, and I'll repeat this, that the freedom of the media, the constitutional mandate of the media to cover this election is non-negotiable and cannot be suppressed by anybody, not even the president of the land, let alone electoral officers at the ground. It is our constitutional mandate. And so we call on the Electoral Commission, if they are listening or watching us, if they are hearing us, to take action immediately. These actions, this attitude, this posture may mar the good work of the EC if they don't act fast. We will continue to monitor and we'll bring real-time briefings or updates. We will continue to be engaging you, our members. We are not sleeping. We are observing. We are following the collation as we have indicated. The Ghana International Press Center is where we have the National Media Collation Center. And for that matter, we're waiting on our 276 volunteers to bring to us declared results from the various constituencies. The media is free to join us. We will project the results.
And that's Albert Jumfor, who is the president of the Ghana Journalists Association, briefing us on the happenings, particularly as they concern journalists. And he expresses concern about the massive sort of deployment of the military at the polling stations, which was said not to be something that will happen. Actually, the army issued a statement to say that the military will not be at polling, they will not be stationed at polling stations. Do you share in the concerns that, the GJA really raises? Yes, Doc?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes the fear, the anxiety with the presence of the military is something that can be reduced because we do know that it's the police that are responsible for these things. And so in areas that the need is not excessive, it will be nice that they cannot hold back until they are needed. I'm happy that, like you shared with us before we came on air, the Peace Council has issued that statement calling on party supporters to also withhold.
Yes, so the National Peace Council issued a statement, and it says it's headed, National Peace Council urges political parties to withdraw supporters from collation centers to prevent delays to the electoral process. And it is asking them, it says the National Peace Council, the West African Network for Peace Building, and other partners in the election situation room are aware of calls from the two major political parties to their supporters to converge at the election collation centers to protect the ballot. Electoral Commission officials and security service personnel at the centers. The election situation room is concerned about this regrettable development that could impede the work of electoral officers, unnecessarily delay the delivery of election results, and of course that is already showing, and heighten tension at the collation centers. It is essential that political parties exercise restraint by withdrawing their supporters from the collation centers and allow their accredited agents to observe the collation process. The Peace Council calls on political parties to respect the electoral rules and allow Electoral Commission personnel to carry out their duties with professionalism and integrity in order to deliver a free, fair, and transparent election. So, Kojo, what you are saying is already happening. Yeah. Normally, around this time, there would have been a lot of progress done at the collation centers. Yeah. So our reporters would have started giving us the certified results at the collation centers. And please remember that what we do here, okay, it's not to deal with results that are not certified. We deal with results that are certified. And so if this continues, it means that the originally estimated time to deliver the results will delay. Yeah. And across the board, we are hearing about delays to get the ballot boxes into the collation centers.
You know, it's sad that after midnight we are not seeing these results. It's sad that we have a lot of people also amassing at the various collation centers, making things difficult. It's also sad that with the amount of money we've spent on this election, we didn't foresee some of these things to put in place other strategies to collate results. I have always felt that at the national level, there should be a system at the national level to take the results from the polling stations. So once it's certified at the polling station, whoever is at the polling station transmits it to the EC. The parties have their reps at the national level. They also get from their agents and cross-check. So we put it in the general master sheet and start building up the data. Because it's still information. So if by midnight...
The same thing that the parties are able to do.
Exactly.
And will be able to tell you the results long before...
And I think the EC should be able to do that. I think usually the EC wants to take the constituency results and put in there. But they should also be able to build that data from that because...
And now they have, I don't know if the agents or the representatives are not aware, the EC has even created regional collation.
Yes, collation.
Exactly.
I have never seen the sense in that in the first place.
That's a federal bureaucracy?
Yes, because regions do not matter
the idea is more transparency. That's what they are trying
Raymond,
to do.
I would disagree with you. Regions do matter in our presidential elections.
How?
And people within the regions...
The entire country is one constituency.
It's true, but if Ashanti region is getting over 3 million voters, and if turnout is 75%, and there's going to be a difference of 1 million votes, somebody needs to know what's happening. If voter is this, somebody needs to know what...
But that's immaterial to the collation. You can tell me the results from a region. That's not the same as having to collate at the regional level.
But at this point...
I don't see why you should have constituencies because they are members of parliament. But when the entire nation is one, what they call it, constituency, why should there be regions having to review before there is onward submission to national?
There is an administrative structure of having regional coordinating councils. So if I belong to a certain region,
anyway.
We can discuss that.
Yes.
And even our district assembly system, we can discuss that at length. But if I'm within a certain region, it also serves my interest to know how the votes are going within my region. It's all information.
Right.
So I think that with EC setting up that National Collation Center, opening it up, telling us they are going to have the Excel master sheet on display and all these things, it would have been great to start receiving some of the information and projecting that. It's the same, in the same vein, it would have been great to even know the turnout by now. So that we know that...
But you know that by now some people know.
Some people know.
How far.
Some people know their how far. And it is up to the EC to also let us know the so far. Okay. That's why we say so far, how far.
But of course, we all want to deal with certified results.
Yes.
And Raymond, this is the note on which we will cross over to Studio 995. In Kumasi for a continuation of our coverage. And as always, you can trust us that we have the experience and we have the track record. We will do it the same way we do it all the time. Credible, accurate, it will be.
Certified.
Certified, correct. Yes. It will be. Yes. Those who have joined myself and Raymond to do the discussion and to help you keep wake and to watch the results have been Professor Echesika Anku, who is with the Unimark, and Kojo Akoto Boating. He is a farmer. That's how he wants to be known.
A journalist on sabbatical leave.
We don't actually say former journalist, right?
No, journalist on sabbatical leave.
Always a journalist.
Yes.
And I love his sense of the geography and the way he's able to romanticize the numbers.
I was hoping we would get into the northern part. We move from Volta to Oti region, then we cross over into northeastern.
Certainly, we'll do so. So, Studio 995, please take over.